During the Christmas season, some cardinals received a confidential document from the Pope. It did not concern celebrations or good wishes, but rather the issues to be discussed at the upcoming extraordinary consistory, issues capable of shifting the balance of power within the Church. Then, 48 hours before the opening, a new email arrives. Everything has changed, with no official explanation, signed by an office that has never managed a consistory. This isn't a hypothesis. This isn't an anonymous source. It's documented by emails and internal documents revealed exclusively by Cardinal News. And this week, it intersected with another equally explosive piece of news. By the end of this video, you will understand why two of the most authoritative voices in traditionalist Catholicism, Cardinal Raymond Burke and Archbishop Athanasius Schneider, have signed an unprecedented indictment this week. And you will understand what the doctrinal foundations of the Church risk if Leo XIV does not respond. Let's start with the facts. On November 6, 2025, the Vatican Secretariat of State announced to the cardinals the first extraordinary consistory of Leo XIV for January 7th and 8th, 2026. On December 19th, the Pope personally sent a Christmas letter with the 4 topics that would be discussed. On the afternoon of January 5th, 2026, 48 hours after the opening of the consistory, a second email arrived for the cardinals. Not from the Secretariat of State, not from the Dean of the College of Cardinals, but from the Office for the Coordination of Dicasteries, an office that had never managed a consistory in recent history. The agenda had been rewritten, times had changed, the format had changed, and no official document explained who made this decision. The change wasn't just about timing. According to documents published by Cardinal News, the January consistory replicated the format of the August 2022 meeting of cardinals, convened by Francis, combining it with that of the Synod on synodality. In concrete terms, less space for free debate among cardinals, more weight given to designated speakers, less opportunity to disagree. Burke is one of the most authoritative canonical jurists of the College of Cardinals, former prefect of the Supreme Tribunal of the Apostolic Signatura, and a leading voice for traditionalist Catholicism worldwide. When he speaks of canonical procedure, he does so on the basis of decades of experience in applying church law. And Burke, after the January consistory, did not remain silent. In an interview documented by Cardinal News and reported by Info Vaticana, he declared that it was necessary to re-examine the format to ensure it respects the true nature of an extraordinary consistory. Measured words, but for those familiar with the institutional language of the Curia, very weighty. Let's pause for a moment. This is not an isolated incident. Leo XIV has already convened the second extraordinary consistory for June 26th and 27th, 2026, just 6 months after the first. The format of the January consistory had already combined elements of the Synod of Bishops with the classical structure. Small groups, 45-minute sessions, in which a maximum of 15 cardinals out of the more than 160 present could speak for 3 minutes each. The doubt many cardinals are carrying with them isn't about the topics discussed. It's about who really controls the agenda. The word synodalization has a precise meaning in the canonical vocabulary. An extraordinary consistory is the instrument through which the Pope consults the cardinals as a collegial body, not as thematic working groups. Transforming it into the format of the Synod of Bishops is not a question of style. It radically changes who speaks, who is listened to, and above all, who controls the final outcome. But there's something the headlines haven't revealed. In the same week that Cardinal News published the documents on the January consistory, another piece of news was quietly exploding in traditionalist circles. On May 5, 2026, the General Secretariat of the Synod of Bishops published the final report of Study Group Number 9, 30 pages, destined to shake the foundations of the Church's moral doctrine. The report, signed by the Commission, led by Cardinal Carlos Gustavo Castillo Matasolio, invited the Church to go beyond a mere repetition of the current doctrinal presentation, taking into account new exegetical interpretations of biblical texts on sexual morality. A deliberately soft language, but with implications that traditionalists immediately recognized as very harsh. Archbishop Athanasius Schneider didn't wait. In an interview given on May 12, 2026, to journalist Diane Montagna and reported by Info Vaticana, Archbishop Schneider declared that the final report has unequivocally crossed the line between orthodoxy and heresy. Not a stylistic criticism, not a reservation of merit, a formal accusation of heresy, written down, signed with his own name, addressed to an official Vatican document. Archbishop Schneider identified the core of the problem in what he called an exegesis of doubt, a method that questions the permanence of biblical texts on sexual morality, opening the door, he said, to total moral relativism. He then made a solemn appeal to Leo XIV, asking him to make a crystalline profession of faith, like Saint Leo the Great, so that the faithful can say, "Through the mouth of Leo XIV, Peter spoke." Monsignor Joseph Strickland, the bishop removed from the Diocese of Tyler in November 2023, spoke even more bluntly, as reported by the Catholic Monitor. Supporting the papacy does not mean pretending that error is truth, he declared. True charity toward the Holy Father means lovingly calling him back to fidelity to Jesus Christ whenever confusion or error is promoted. Three distinct voices with distinct stories. Three men who this week said the same thing in different words. The synodal structure is not a neutral mechanism for listening. It is a tool that, applied to doctrinal documents, produces ambiguity where tradition required clarity. The second extraordinary consistory is scheduled for June 26th and 27th, 2026. The question that traditionalists are asking themselves at this event is clear. Who will rewrite the agenda at the last minute this time? And with what format will Leo XIV address the doctrinal questions that remain open after the report of Study Group Number 9? St. Pius X wrote that modernism proceeds by evolution, adapting the language of faith to the categories of the time. The formula, going beyond a mere repetition of doctrine, used in the report of Study Group Number 9, is functionally identical to the method condemned by Pascendi. It is not a polemical comparison. It is a doctrinal diagnosis. The Church has been through darker times than this, and each time tradition has survived, not thanks to its structures, but thanks to those bishops and cardinals who had the courage to tell the truth when it was costly. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.